Hello everyone, this is part 9 of What If Naruto and Hinata Had a Kid, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Mommy, are you still mad? A little voice spoke quietly in her ear. Yumi was being tentative, careful not to overstep anything to bring more anger to her mother. Small arms clung to her and little legs wrapped around her waist. Hinata let a tiny smile appear on her lips. How could she ever stay mad at her daughter? No, Yumi, I'm not mad. I got scared. The little girl shifted in her arms. She met her mother's eyes with a frown. Why? I was okay. But I didn't know that. I didn't know you were okay. I was scared something happened to you. Yumi seemed to process this and accept it. Scared when you can't see me. Many times, yes. There was a very short silence before her bright blue eyes eyed Hinata almost too intensely for a 4-year-old. Then she frowned her eyebrows in a very familiar way and looked right at her mother. Does mommy get scared when she can't see daddy too? Yes. Are you scared daddy will not come home? Hinata stopped walking. Many times, more times than she could count, Yumi surprised Hinata. She knew she was smart, she never thought less of her. She knew Yumi saw things the average person did it, but did she really see the fear in Hinata's eyes every time they said goodbye to her husband? Did she see how just for a second Hinata would linger in the hug he gave her? Did she hear her whisper to him to come home before he smiled at them and walked away? No baby, Hinata said, smiling kindly to her daughter. I'm not scared daddy won't come home. I'm scared it will take him too long to come home. But daddy's a ninja. Yumi beamed. She seemed to not understand why her mother did not see how her husband was near immortal. In the young girl's eyes, her father could do and would do anything. Daddy not coming home was unfathomable. It was non-existent in her world where daddy was a true superhero. Yes, he is. Daddy's gonna come home, mommy, don't be scared. The little girl settled comfortably in her mother's arms while she spoke of animals and her favorite colors. Hinata listened while her daughter's wise words echoed in her head. If only she could live like her 4-year-old did, then life would be so much easier. The office of Dr. Kyoto was clean despite its many stacks of books and scrolls. There were pencil holders on her desk along with a lamp, and other office supplies. A name plate on her desk said her name in bold black letters on a gold plate. She was a young-looking woman despite her office size and status. She had dark hair and dazzling dark eyes, the only sign of any aging in her were the tiny gray hairs that lay behind her ears. She was warm and friendly to Hinata, and told her that when she was 17 she had her first child. A boy who grew up and was now a new genin, and Hinata loved her instantly. It seems as though everything is going well with you. I see you had a run-in with Tsunade though. You collapsed. Yes. Hinata looked shyly to the floor. She had collapsed many times in her life and each time he embarrassed her. I didn't know, I was overwhelmed and I didn't know about the baby and my chakra systems. I see. Dr. Kyoto smiled up at her. Well, I assume you know better now. Yes. Yes, ma'am. May I ask where the father is? She had a look on her face that asked permission to speak on a taboo subject. Hinata had to come into her appointment alone because Naruto was requested to go on a mission, and as much as she told him to go to the mission he still fought to go with her instead. But Hinata knew this along with many other things, were things she had to get used to. There would be many times in her future where just as people would talk, she would have to be alone in doing things. Naruto would be there when he could, but other times she would be alone. Naruto is on a mission. Hinata said with the same polite smile. He couldn't make it though he wanted to. Naruto, Uzumaki. Yes. So the rumors are true, Dr. Kyoto purred and then flashed Hinata a sweet smile. Hinata didn't know what that was really supposed to mean or what was behind that smile, so instead she smiled back. Why yes. Have you two come to a decision then? Yes. We have decided to keep the child. Not just that, Hinata, I mean, is Naruto going to own up to his responsibilities? I can't count how many young men I've seen freak out and leave the girls behind. Yes, we have discussed it thoroughly. That's good. Dr. Kyoto seemed to nod in approval. Well, Hinata, I believe for now you are doing very well. I would like to schedule another appointment in about a month to see how you're doing. Remember to mind what Tsunade told you about keeping yourself rested and not stressed. Also pick up these books if you can, they will answer more questions for you regarding pregnancy. Thank you, Hinata said, standing to bow. Dr. Kyoto bowed with her and they said goodbye again, and Hinata left with her list of books in hand. Her footsteps echoed softly down the white hallway of the hospital. The nurses that she saw greeted her with strange smiles, and then she was sure she heard whispering once her back was turned. This was something that she had to come to expect though. People would talk and whisper behind her back, people looked for her for their entertainment. This was Konoha. If you did not disappear into its crowd, you were ostracized by it. Hinata would get used to it over time, she would become deaf to the whispers and the blind to the stares, but that was years from now. For now it was hard enough to walk by as if she heard nothing at all. It had been a week since Naruto proposed to her, and despite Hinata's obvious giddiness of a child on Christmas, they agreed to keep it quiet for the time being. After all, there was no need to rush into anything. Like Ino had said, they were having a baby as it was, marriage could just be a promise for a while. This, however, did not stop Konoha from its infestation of rumors surrounding her. She had yet to be accosted as she had been that day with the old woman, but she still got sneers and glares from the older crowd. While those of her and a younger generation whispered and buzzed with the newest form of delicious gossip. Despite the whispers and the looks, though she made a promise to herself to not tell him, it was obvious enough it was this alone that scared him the most, so Hinata thought it best to leave it out of the equation as much as possible. Unless she was outright attacked, she had no reason to go and cry to him for anything. Out of the hospital, she opted between going home or going to her meeting with Tsunade she had been ignoring for the past week. When Sakura would say she was asked to talk to her, Hinata would, conveniently, find things to do to weasel her way out of conversation she knew she was going to have. As much as she knew she had to talk to the Hokage about a new job, she really didn't want to. She loved being a ninja, she loved the freedom it gave her, the skills she was trained with, the respect she got from everyone, she was addicted to it all. She couldn't just walk away from it, but that's what her Hokage had told her she needed to do should she choose to keep her child. And she had. There was no victory without S in her line of work, and this was no different. So with her mind made up, Hinata held her head high and went to the Hokage tower. She was told to wait so Tsunade could make time for her, but because she was Hinata and because their meeting was long overdue, she didn't need to wait long. She contemplated what to tell and what not to tell Tsunade when she started talking. She knew she would answer her questions, but if Tsunade asked about her and Naruto and about what they were going to do, she was sure that was something to be kept on the down low for now. Hello Hinata, how have you been? Very well, Madam Hokage, Hinata said in a low bow before Tsunade offered her to sit. I was worried. Sakura said you have been busy, which is why you hadn't come to see me. Hinata blushed, but Tsunade smiled almost playfully behind her desk. I understand, Hinata, which is why I never asked Sakura to give me details. I knew you would come when you were ready. Thank you, Hinata said, bowing her head. She wasn't ready, she was far from ready, but it was something that needed to be done. So then best we not stall then. Tsunade's smile left her face and she took out papers from her desk. Do you want to stay in the ninja community or would you mind working on the other side? I don't mind. Hinata never imagined she would ever be faced with that question. The question to leave the ninja community, that life, it didn't make sense. Good. There are a lot of openings for wanted help in the non-ninja community. For instance, the secondary school is looking for a substitute teacher, and a receptionist. As for the other, well, there is a job at the library, not very high on the pay, but it might be your best considering your condition. The library. That didn't sound too bad. Yes, what do you say? Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. Hinata looked down at her hands, she clasped them and swallowed. Hinata, Tsunade said, making her look up. There was an odd look of sympathy in the woman's face. This is only temporary if you want it to be. You can't afford the life you live now with a baby on the way. But once the baby is born, you are more than welcome to rejoin the ranks as a ninja. Thank you, Hinata said, smiling. She had known it was temporary, she had known it was for protocol, but hearing it made her feel that much better. Here you go then. Tsunade gave her a sheet of paper. Hinata folded up neatly and put in her pocket along with the list of books from Dr. Kyoto. Report there tomorrow, I will tell them I've sent help. If you like, you can think of it as a long mission. Tsunade smiled and laughed a bit. Hinata laughed too, but only to be polite. When the women said goodbye, and taken over by a sudden wave of exhaustion, Hinata decided it was best to head on home. Since Naruto was out on a mission, she had the entire place to herself. Going home and slipping into bed sounded wonderful. Hey stranger, Sakura voiced, and suddenly bouncing up behind her, the pink-haired girl smiled brightly and Hinata couldn't help but smile back. Hello Sakura. So finally got to your long-avoided meeting with Tsunade. Sakura gave her a leer of a grin and Hinata blushed feverishly. Why yes, so what did you come up with? Sakura asked, now walking beside her friend. I will start work at the library. Library huh, so I guess we'll see each other a lot. I mean I'm almost there every day doing work for Tsunade. They spoke of current events and updates on their boyfriends. Hinata almost let it slip that she was no longer a girlfriend but a fiancé, but caught herself. Then going on that thought, she remembered her list of books and Sakura's love for books. Sakura, can I ask you something? Always. I need to pick up some books, can you come with me? Sure. Right now? No. Tomorrow would be better. I'm really tired right now. Sure. I'll come by tomorrow afternoon, okay? Thanks. Sakura walked her back to the apartment and they parted ways. Inside it was quiet and dark and Hinata was surrounded by comfortable solitude. Here no one whispered behind her back, here no one looked at her while whispering behind their hands to each other. No one gave her accusing stares, no one steered their children away from her when she walked by. Here she was welcomed and home. She took off her jacket and was about to remove her top to jump into one of her favorite shirts of Naruto's when she was interrupted by a knock on her door. Curious as to who would be disturbing her now, Hinata answered it, momentarily forgetting her jacket. She was surprised, to say the least, when similar white eyes met her own. Neji. Hinata. He greeted her in his normal monotone voice. Hinata couldn't remember the last time her cousin went to see her without something behind it. It was never out of the goodness of his heart. Hinata went on alert. Did something happen? Did something happen to her father or her sister? Oh god, did something happen to Naruto? And Neji, did something happen? No. May I come in? He walked his way in before Hinata could say yes or no. Now she was confused. If nothing had happened, what did she owe this spontaneous visit to? I hear you have left the compound. Neji voiced when she had shut the door. Yes, I was asked to leave and I did. I heard it was not for good reason. Hinata crossed her arms, her defenses flew up instantly. She frowned at the man. Neji saw this and did his best to step back. They had never been close, not since they were innocent children. He had broken that tie and it remained broken for years. Even after her first Chunin exam and after their missions, they still were never what they used to be. It was easier, and she could be around him without fear consuming her, but it had never been the same. He never spoke to her of her life choices, not once, so why would he choose to lecture her now? Have you come to tell me the danger I have put everyone in? She said in a less than polite voice crossing the room. You do no need me to tell you that. He said looking around her small living space. Then why are you here? Hinata asked but walked to the kitchen to make 2 cups of tea regardless. It wasn't that Hinata disliked her cousin, no, it was much different than that. She respected him greatly, she loved him as much as she loved the rest of her family. It was just that Neji was such a confusing man. She learned later in life it was safer to stay on her guard around him. He didn't mean harm but he could cause it regardless, so being on guard was always a good choice. Hanabi told me why you moved out. I am not here to lecture you on your decision, Hinata. I only want to know that you know your choice. What do you mean? Hiashi won't speak to you but you are not stupid. You know the ways of the clan. Have you given any thought what will happen if the child posses the Byakugan? Hinata was struck dumb. She knew of it, but she had played dumb to it hoping it wouldn't be an issue. No, that was a lie in itself. She knew it was going to be an issue, but she had chosen to ignore it. She chose to play stupid and naive the way it had always suited her in the past. Father has disowned me. I am not a Hyuga in his eyes anymore. Don't be stupid. He growled at her and Hinata stopped talking. She wasn't stupid, she was far from it. But this was her child, her child. There is no proof the child will come out with the Byakugan. And if it does, it will only be half. If they do posse's it will not be strong enough. You know that will not stop the elders. There is already talk of taking the child. Suddenly her blood felt cold. What? They say a child with the limit will need to be branded with the branch house. You may be a main house member, Hinata, but your child will not be, and because it is with Naruto, he paused, looking down at the ground before meeting her sad eyes. Their objective is clear. Hinata swallowed and fought the urge to look away from him. She wasn't a child anymore. She was a mother. She had to protect her child. This is my child, she said stubbornly. It only seemed to anger her cousin. You think they care? They see the child as a threat to the Hyuga secrets. The child will not be a Hyuga. He stared at her. If he was confused or if he expected her answer, he didn't show it. Instead, he continued to stare at her with his stone face, asking her to continue. It will be an Uzumaki, like Naruto, like me. I am not a Hyuga anymore, Neji. There was silence between them, and then Neji shook his head and a tiny smile came over his lips. Naruto never ceases to surprise me. He crossed the room and put an hand on her shoulder. I cannot grant your child protection, but I was trained to protect you. Hinata felt herself smile. She looked up under her bangs at her older cousin. Thank you, Neji. With another gentle squeeze on her shoulder, the only form of affection she was sure her cousin could give another female who wasn't 10-10, he left as quietly as he had come. Once he was gone and Hinata was left back alone in her small quiet apartment, she let herself fall down into Naruto's soft bed. With a frustrated groan, she rubbed her face and eyes hard. She fought the sudden urge to start to cry and swallowed hard. Her hands absent-mindedly went down to her still very flat and hard stomach. She looked out at the sky from the window. It was such a beautiful blue. The snow was clearing up and it was the first sunny day in a long time, though it was still cold out. What would she tell Naruto? She never mentioned the possibility of their child possessing her family's secret. Out of everything they've talked about, after everything she cried about and he almost yelled at her about. After all the fights and the I'm sorry, she never mentioned the biggest obstacle they could face. Why? It wasn't really talked about, but it was one of those rules every Hyuga knew. If a child of a Hyuga was born as a half-breed, there was one of two things that would happen. One was they were executed at birth upon seeing the blood limit. Hinata herself had never heard of these executions, but she could recall in her life seeing a girl from the branch house pregnant and then suddenly not being pregnant and never seeing a child around. The other course of action was arguable, either the more humane one of the more cruel of the two. Being a half-breed, the child would be marked and put in the branch house. The second choice would be the lesser evils of the two when you stepped it down to black and white, and Hinata couldn't see either choice a choice for her child. If Hinata was the obedient daughter she had always been, she may have a harder time making her decision. But she wasn't that obedient, was she? She had snuck around for 2 years with the boy her father, and almost everyone else in the village hated. She got pregnant at 17 and now she was even engaged and soon to be married. So she had never been that obedient for 2 whole years now, had she? Not only that, but she was as much a Hyuga now as she had been at 12 years old. The only thing that kept her there was her name on her birth certificate, and now that was subject to change. She rolled onto her stomach and an amused smile crossed her lips. Hinata wasn't a Hyuga anymore. She was an Uzumaki, and Uzumakis protected those they love above all costs, above everything else, even their own lives. As Naruto would do for her and their child, she would do in return. Nothing and no one could ever take this child from her. They would have to pry it from her cold hands to accomplish that. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.